Hey digital creators, this is Dana with Dana Digital Tutorials, helping you master the tech to simplify your creative journey. And in today's video, I'm going to take you through the MyDesigns Dream AI system, what all the different boxes mean, and then we're going to run through two different comparisons on a series of butterflies, both with a solid background and with a request for an isolated white background. I'll also teach you what I think that particular model may be good at or may not be good at, but it will only be based on the images that I am showing you here today. And with your prompts and your experience, you may get different results. Just know that this is from my experience. So let's go ahead and get started. So over here is the Dream AI panel. You do get access to this once you're in MyDesigns and you click on Dream AI. Your overall panel here is going to have different things that you're going to use in this process, including if you need additional credits here, which I did burn through about 400 credits for this video so that you don't have to. And then you can also see your credits here. You can click on this if you want to get some additional credits. You can see that you can buy 125 credits for only $5. I do believe it is extremely reasonable. And if you don't have MyDesigns yet, or if you want to give it a free try, there is a link down below. You can create an account with no subscription, and then you can just spend $5 on some credits to see if you like the way the AI generator works before signing up. I love that. A $5 trial is not a bad plan, and you'll get images out of it. You can also access that same thing down here by creating or get credits. Both of those work. Now that we're in the panel here, you'll see the mode. There are several different options. We're going to be working with text to image today. I will go through the other options in a future video. One of them is image to image remix. You can drag an image here and you can tell it how strong to use that image in your generation. And these other two I need to play with a little bit more before I really go through them with you. So we're going to go back to text to image here. Now you're going to have style here. This is going to vary based on the model that you use. And then you have the number of images that you want it to create, which is also going to be different per model. So this one can go all the way up to 9, and it's very inexpensive. That would only be 3.4 credits for 9 images. Some of the models are more expensive. You can watch that as we go through this video. You should be able to see them through the entire video. Your resolution is a similar thing. Based on which model you choose, you will have different options. One thing I want to give you a caution on these two here is if you change this to 9 for an example, and you then go over to DALL-E on the model in the drop down here, and you change that to 2, and then you pop back over here thinking that you're on 2, it is not going to do it that way. It is going to remember how many images you set the last time. Now, if you close this and you go back in, it may reset to whatever the default is, but just note to look at both your resolution and the number of images that you're processing when you switch models to make sure that you're not wasting credits on the wrong amount or a resolution or ratio. This is where you'll find your model. Based on your model that you pick, you may have an extra option right here. So if we come over here and we click, we'll see if we go to DALL-E, now we had a pop-up box come up over here with some different options. This is your parallel prompts. I do recommend that you leave that completely off unless you're working on parallel prompts. And what are those? When you have this turned on, every time you have an enter, even if it's just the next line and you don't realize there's an enter, it will treat it as 2 separate prompts. So if I typed ice cream here, and this was a really long, and it went way down here, And I don't know why we're speech to texting. I don't know how I did that, but that was pretty awesome, and I'll have to figure that out later. But if I had really long text and it went all the way to the end, and I didn't realize that there was an enter here, and I had parallel prompts just on as default, I'm going to waste credits. So I just leave this off, except for when I'm intentionally wanting to do multi-prompts, because this new line here with that on means create 2 prompts. And there is no difference between this and this, but in the computer, it does recognize that as 2 prompts. So just a little tip to help you. Hitting enter here is very easy to do, especially if you use other software that enter is going to send an image. So I just caution you with that. You'll have to actually hit Dream for it to send. So let me get rid of the word ice cream because we are not working on ice cream right now. So this is how many credits the image is going to cost you, like I'd already said. And this just means go ahead and take all of my settings and create what I've asked you to create. Down here, you do have a history panel. You can search here. Whatever you type here is also going to put here, and whatever you type here will put here. So it's going to search in both of these. So you can type in either one. There is no difference. Just for convenience, they're in 2 different locations. This is one of the things I love about MyDesigns, and you're probably going to hear me say that a lot, is MyDesigns is very intuitive for the most part. There are a couple of things you need to figure out, but just a lot of it makes sense, and it's very user-friendly. Down here is your history. It is all of your history. You can scroll through it. You can search through it. You cannot search based on where the model type. I did ask them to create either a filter, or actually I asked them to create a search, and he thought maybe a filter would be better. So hopefully Curtis will make that happen in the future. Over here, you do have your history, but I'm going to show you in this tab, and I have it already set up. It stops scrolling for me when I get to about here on the number of entries that I have. And in order to get around that, you can just scroll down on this side, click the next image, and then it will begin scrolling for you again for a certain amount of time. So just know that on this right panel, it'll only scroll so far until you click on the little left one to get it to scroll further. So I'm going to close that tab. We don't need that open anymore. Now, I have a couple of images here. I know that in my previous video, I had a French bulldog, and there were some comments about how cute he was, and I'm going to show you here how I made that. But after I finish this part, we'll go in and do our comparison of all the different models. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm creating a prompt is I like to start with a basic prompt. I like to keep it very simple. Typically, I won't even type illustration. Sometimes I do, but not always, because I just want to see what this particular model is going to give me, whether it's here on MyDesigns or in any other AI program. And then I'm going to build from there. One of the things that I noticed is even though I typed illustration, it gave me a photograph on the right and it gave me a photograph on the left. And if I don't remember the prompt that I typed here, I can just click this little blue arrow, or I can click it here, this little circle arrow, and it's going to take whatever I use to create this, all the settings, and it's going to put it over here for me. And then I can adjust my prompt and rerun it, change it all the way. If I just want to see it, I can see it this way. So I can see that I ran this on the DALL-E 3, and I used Vivid. Quality is standard. I've not really played around a whole lot with the HD, but we will do a comparison between the standard and the natural later, which I was kind of surprised by that result. And then after I have done this here, I'm going to go ahead and start adjusting my prompt. Now, I don't do this for every prompt. I just do this when I want to learn the model, or if I'm trying to build to a specific style, and I don't want to put everything in there and paste a really long prompt because I'm not sure what's doing what's conflicting. And so I like to start simple and build. Once I get to know this model, I'm going to do it less and less, but I wanted to show you kind of my process. So my next one, what I have done is I added hand drawn and I added isolated on a white background. Those two are not related, so I could test them together. But I do notice here a lot in MyDesigns, when I request hand drawn, it will give me either pencils or it'll give me a hand drawing. I'm not sure if you have that same problem. If you do, or if you don't, let me know down in the comments. But with the word illustration and hand drawn, it automatically switched, and I didn't change anything over here other than those words to a black and white image. So I thought, let's make it colorful. And so up here, it actually did exactly what I asked, but it did not do what was in my brain, which was a colored image. So wording does matter. And if you want to know more about wording and how it affects prompts, let me know. And I will do a video on that in the future, and how not only the words, but the connector words can affect the results of your prompt. I probably would have done better, which I did later, change this to a cute French or black and tan French bulldog, which then tells the computer that I want it to be a natural color. The next thing I did is I wanted to add kawaii, and I do believe we're still in the DALL-E model. And I just kind of wanted to see what it gave me here. I really think that this one turned out well and is a very usable image. And this one is kind of funky, but I could see it being a great image as well. And then, one thing I want to let you know is, as artists, we all have different tastes, different styles, things that we gravitate towards, and you should listen to your inner artist while you're also looking to see what buyers are looking for, because you never know who is interested in your looks and what you like. And you're today going to see from my perspective, but I'm going to try really hard to tell you how to use these and apply them to your perspective. So I do like both of these. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you a couple of the bulldogs that I know you might like to recreate and how you can do that. I think he turned out really good. So here is my prompt. And then here is the model that I used, and there is no special setting under the flux. So if you want to screenshot this, you can go ahead and do that. You'll see that I created 4 images, and it cost me 1 credit per image. So a pretty good deal for an image that I think has a lot of use. So, and then the other one, oh, and this was the modeling, the magic prompt. And one thing when I did this, I think that when I wrote composition, it kind of picked up on this word, because these feel very muted, or I don't know, like a lens of gray over it. Yes, I know he's all the way gray, but that's not even what I'm referring to. Even this guy looks like somebody whitewashed him or gray washed him. So I don't know if the word composition, it picked up on that, and thinking about like a composition notebook. But I did this a couple of times and I got the same thing. Here's the one that people were asking about. And so let me show you that prompt here. All I did was change this. I used this same prompt and I changed it to the Flux 1.1 Pro. It did cost me 6 credits for 2 images, but you're more than welcome to copy and try this prompt. And let me know if you get something just as cute. And then this was the other one that I wanted to show you because I found this was interesting. We're going to go over here and we're going to look. I did model SD3. I did style none, and it gave me a very simple background. Even with this little yellow blob in the background, both of these would be great for a t-shirt or for a mug. It would be very easy to pull these off of the background. But when I changed the style from the none over to, let's see what I did, digital art, it all of a sudden changed my background. It doesn't always do this, but sometimes it's going to, these little features here might make it more difficult for you to pull it off of the background. So just kind of take a note of that, because when we switch over to the next tab, I don't have these images over there, and I just wanted to show you this before we did. And here's the modeling clay, I believe it is, modeling compound right there. Did not like that at all, but on the other subject, it did turn out pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next screen, and we're going to begin to compare the different models, and then we're going to compare them on a white background, and then we will compare some of the styles. I do have a nice little cheat sheet here for you. This is all the different styles under the SD3. And then these are all of the models that MyDesigns currently offers right now. So over here, I wanted to create a butterfly with a background that could be realistic or it could be a cartoon, and this allows me to see what these particular models are going to do. It's just another test I like to do. And when I type this prompt in, so I'm going to go ahead and let you see it and let you see the settings up here. I left everything basic, except I just changed to the SD3 model. And I noticed here that it's giving me kind of a cartoon look in the butterflies and a natural background in this image. And so when I see something like this, it tells me that with the right adjustments to my prompt, I should be able to either get a completely cartoon style image or a completely photographic style image. So I don't mind when it gives me results like this, because it just gives me what this particular model is capable of. Let's go ahead and, yes, we are in the model SD3. I thought I started with SDL X1, but I think we get to that in a few minutes. I think these are kind of your precursor images before the actual comparisons start, but I didn't want to lose out sharing what I got on these. I changed this to the SD3 Turbo, and this is giving me a very cute cartoon look all the way from the butterflies to the background. Makes for a great image that I think these would probably be very sought after style-wise. You'd want to work on your prompt a little bit, but just the style of the image. And if we come and look at this, I do believe this switches over to the DALL-E, and I used Vivid on here. I'm going to save this conversation for when we get to the comparison of natural and Vivid. And then we're going to go ahead and skip up to the one that I'm looking for. I guess these were it. So let's go ahead and go back down, and we'll just look at this image here. And this is the model ideogram, the version 1 here. And you can see that the version 1 has a very old, not as good of a quality of style. And that does bring up a really big point for me personally. When I'm in here, I'm typically going to stay away from most of these older models, and I might avoid the newest model just because they're so expensive. And I'll show you the difference. You have version 1 here, which is 5 credits for 2 images. And you go to version 1 Turbo, and it's only 2 credits. And then if we come down to version 2, we've gone up to 8 credits. And then we go to Turbo, and we've gone down to 4 credits. So I might stay away from some of the higher credits unless I know I really need to use that to get the look that I want. And that's just a good way to balance the cost and the quality, but there are times where that higher cost is worth the credits that it needs in order to get the look that I want. But I'm definitely going to be staying away from this one for most everything that I do. So, and then maybe later I'll have an image and change my mind, so we'll see. So in this one, I switched over to the version 1 Turbo, which I guess is that Turbo there. And let's go back down and double check that this one is the, this is the version 1. Okay, good. So I did not lose track of what I was doing. And you know, when I just clicked on that image, it reminded me of one thing I probably should have said. If you're clicking all of these different boxes, you notice it tells you how many you've selected, and then you hit download, and then you go pick another one. It does not unselect these. So you'll see now I have 5 selected. So you just want to clear your selection after you do a download so that you're not re-downloading those images and having to get rid of the duplicates on your computer. So this one again was the version 1 Turbo, and I do believe this did a nice job. I feel like this has a very dreamy look to it. I don't care for this one as much, but this does give me a good one that I might want to try to use again in the future. And if you want to do tests like these and you want to be able to access them quickly, pick a subject that you're not going to normally be creating on. So if you're probably never going to really create, for example, a caterpillar, that might be a good one, because then you can search here and look for caterpillar and find all your comparisons to figure out which model you want to use. I do that over in other AI generators. But I didn't think you wanted to see a caterpillar today, so I ran these on butterflies. So we're going to go ahead and refresh that, and we're going to go to model, and you can see I've switched over to the version 2, and this is a very flat look on these. Usually I get a pretty good result on this version 2, so I'm not sure why I got such a flat result, but again, like one of those other versions, I've got a very cartoony butterfly, I feel, and a very realistic background, so that just shows me the capabilities. And then I thought this one was kind of a little funny. I did not ask for flowers, much less for butterflies to be made out of flowers. But on that Turbo, its creativeness decided to give that to me. And I actually think that it's kind of fun, and it might be an idea for trying to create something like this on purpose. So we're going to go look at the Flux 1 Pro. This has kind of a cinematic look of sorts, but not fully. They have somewhere between a photographic and a graphic image. I feel like it's like a blend of the two. I would bet you could get this to go either way. And on this one here, this is the Flux 1.1 Pro, and I've got a lot of blur up here in the front. I'm curious if it does that on all the prompts, but it does have a cartoony feel in some of the areas and a photographic in the other. It's interesting that I've gotten a lot of those in this. So on this one, this is the Flux 1 Dev, and this is definitely mostly a cartoon feel with some realistic, like, what do you call that? Surreal photographs where a painting looks like a photograph. So I think that this would be easily manipulated, maybe even for some 3D based on some of these flowers here. We're going to look at this image here. This is the Flux 1 Schnell, and I don't like that it gave me a black border on the top and the bottom. I'm not sure why it did that. But the rest of these, you can see, again, we've got kind of a mix between a, and I think it might be my prompt writing magical butterflies in a grassy field. Maybe if I change that to a magical grassy field, or butterflies in a grassy field with a magical feel. So that's part of that prompt engineering that I was talking about. And if you do put comments down below, I'll know there's enough interest in that, and I'll talk about how to string your words together so that AI does understand what you're asking for. Now here's where we go back to the beginning, and I do them in order. I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can for you. This is where I did the SDXL1. I do not care for this, and other than me trying to create maybe a pattern, it is probably not one that I would use. This here is the SD3. Again, we're on style none, or all of these, we're keeping them as basic as possible, and I do think that this turned out really well. I think that this is a very usable image. It responded well to my white background, and my butterflies do have a magical appearance to them, and I would probably use those in a project. Now, it's interesting, I switched from SD3 to SD3 Turbo, and I got more of a realistic butterfly here. So if you're going for more realistic, I would try the Turbo instead of the standard SD3. Although, remember, I haven't applied any style effects, which are up here, which we will go through in a little bit. This is the DALL-E, and for some reason, DALL-E has not been as responsive to me for the looks that I want. This is what it gave me. And this is on the Vivid, though, and later I'll show you a comparison to the two. This is a very older one, the ideogram version 1. Probably not something I would ever use. I think they look a little scary, maybe. I don't know what the word is for those. This is the ideogram version 1 Turbo. I don't think these are a whole lot better, but they do have some aesthetics that I like. And if I'm trying to create something with, say, this pattern, I would work with that, but maybe not a butterfly. And this one was interesting because this is the ideogram version 2. And again, before I said usually it responds really well for me, but it did not give me a white background. That background is solid and it is easy to remove, but it did give me nice butterflies. So it's not an unusable image. I'm just kind of surprised that it doesn't have a white background. And this switches over to the Turbo, I believe. Yes. And I would think Turbo almost means like fast or not fast, but it's actually two very different images and styles. I do like both. Both of these would be great to create more variations and create like a wallpaper of these butterflies all the way around. I think they're both easy to get off the background. Turbo did listen to me more for that white background. Now we're going to look at the Flux 1 Pro. And I noticed that in this image, this has more of the texture of what we would think of as butterfly wings, whereas this has more of a plastic feel to it, to me. And I think I might play with both of these and adjust my prompt a little bit to work towards maybe this one or this one, depending on what I'm working on. So this is the Flux 1.1, and both of these are great. I do think it might be more difficult to pull this off of the background, but I think that it's doable because it does have a nice line around it. It just depends on which background remover program that you're using. And I think this one turned out good too. Flux 1 Dev. And you can see it gave me two very different images. I didn't put anything over here about color, but it's giving me a very colorful and then a monotone butterfly. And this one has a 3D effect to it. And this one has more of an almost realistic effect. And with some working on this prompt, I could see a lot of potential using this particular model. This was probably one of my least favorite models besides the really old ones, which is the Flux 1 Schnell. And I feel like the edges are very soft in focus. They're not completely blurred, but it's not what I'm typically going for. And it's like this would be clear and this is clear, but this feels not clear to me. And I might play with it a little bit more a couple of times, but it is very inexpensive. It's only 1 credit per generation. So I would see if maybe I could add full focus or see if something like that's going to work. And let's look at this one. And this is the natural for the DALL-E. Now, to me, this is very vivid. When I'm clicking on vivid, this is the only thing in MyDesigns that didn't make a whole lot of sense. I would think natural and vivid next to each other is going to be more of a softer natural color, and vivid is going to be like an extra saturated, but that's not actually what it means. What it means is natural is just a very calm, less detail. And then this is vivid, where it's giving me lots of details, lots of different, not only detail in the butterfly, but in the backgrounds. So that would be the major difference. I ran this a couple of times, and I'll show you in a few minutes. I have another one that I ran, and the vivid is actually more about detail than it is about color. Here's where I did it again. So let's look at this one. You can see I have the model DALL-E. I have a cartoon. I added the word cartoon graphic in there. wanted to see what it gave me. This is the natural here, 4 credits for that. And then this is the vivid. And look at the difference in the natural versus the vivid. So definitely I would stick with vivid on this because I don't know that this is what I'm going for typically. So let's look at that, and you can see here all I did was change it to vivid, and I think that these turned out really good, and that might be why my dolly wasn't doing as well as I wanted, is I may have reset this over to natural, not realizing it, but I definitely want to go to vivid in the future. So this is back to the model SD3 with style none. And I think this is where we go, yes, this is where we start going through the different styles. So if you start with the base style, style none, realistic background, kind of, again, cartoony or graphic feel butterflies. This is going to be the enhance here, similar. It just kind of intensified the colors a little bit, I think. This is the anime one, and I think here, if I'd add cartoon, that would hone this in even more. And in my negative prompt, which I didn't mention earlier, some of the models have a negative prompt. I would probably type people here if I didn't want people in my image. You can just separate these by commas. So people, comma, animals, if you want, whatever it is that you want to put in there. So we have photographic, and that's exactly what this is. It does seem to give a warm tone. That could be from my prompt, but it gives you an idea. These butterflies do have a more realistic look to them. And this is the digital art, which I was kind of surprised that my scene didn't go more digital in this particular prompt here, but most of these are dead on for what you would expect when you look at their names. And with a little bit of prompt engineering, we like to call it, you could get some really good images out of these. This is comic book, and that's exactly what it looks like. It just looks like a comic book, a very detailed comic book, but a comic book nonetheless. This is the fantasy art, and I could see that this would do really well if maybe I added the word luminescence in here or a dark and moody background instead of these trees and lakes and grass. I could see this making a really nice pop on the background with those bright, wonderful, ethereal colors and feel to it. As you would guess, this is probably line art. What I do like about the model SD3 is there's a lot of choices on your resolution. So you could come in here maybe to one of these two or do it this way to create a coloring book that with minimal cropping that would work really well. It's already set up for you. You don't even have to create a coloring book. I believe this is the old analog film, so think like 120, 220 way back before my time. But then it's had color added to it. That's what this gives me that feeling of. And if you wanted to have this retro look, you can always delete the frame that it does put around it in your editor when you're creating your seamless backdrop or seamless wrap. And here is Neon Punk, and I definitely would love to redo this and play with the background. I think I did towards the end of this video. I already ran them when I recorded this earlier, and I'll show you what those look like. This is isometric, and I think that these butterflies kind of have a different look to them. I don't think they match the background, but I think if you do isometric without a background or with a more simple background, these and just a single butterfly, this might really shine. This is low poly, and I think the same thing as the last image. If you do a single butterfly, I'm gonna say that word a whole lot of times, but if you do just a single butterfly, I think that you're going to get some really unique designs using this low poly and maybe a different background, a solid white or something. And as you probably know, this is origami. And I think the same thing as the previous ones. It does all look very origami. I like the way it did the background, but not necessarily with origami. This is the modeling compound, and you remember the dog that I showed you earlier did not look good at all, but some of these butterflies do look okay. I don't care for the plates and stuff, but again, I think most of that could be taken care of with your prompt. And I could have gone in and worked on my prompts to work with all of these models, but I don't feel like it would give you a very fair comparison when we're looking from image or model to model. Having our image prompt be very somewhat simple here and keeping it the same from model to model really allows you to see the difference. So I believe this is cinematic. Let's look. Yes, that is cinematic, and it definitely looks very cinematic. Just has that deep filter feel. I do really like that, and I think I might play with the butterflies on a plain background with this one. This was the 3D model. I've done other ones with this 3D model, and I think the butterfly is the wrong subject because it's when they're all out here and they're smaller and they're spread out, it's really hard for it to have anything to put the 3D model on. And it might be better to play with this with a different subject to get a better choice. And here I have the pixel art. I know that one already. And if you're trying to do something with crafting in the mines, then this might be a really good style to use because it's going to help you get to that look that you're going for. Here is where I did that neon punk. I was saying how that might look really good with a single butterfly and a more plain background. I did a white background, but I do think that this would look good with a dark and moody background. So maybe we'll come over here and put dark and moody background and process that. And that's going to cost me 10 credits, but I'm going to do that for you because I want to see it as well. And this one here is, I believe I did some of these when I was showing the multi-prompt, and I did. So on this one, I had parallel prompts turned off. I had an enter here, so this is on one line, and this is on another. Because I had the parallel prompts turned off, it just gave me one image. And I do actually like these, and I guess because I put highly detailed butterfly twice, it responded really well. This is the model SD3. I do like them, and I probably could see a lot of uses for them. And this is the 3D model. Again, even when we bring that butterfly closer and we get rid of the distractions, we can see there's just not enough in this butterfly for it to hang on to use that 3D model. It doesn't mean this isn't a good model and style. It just means this is the wrong subject for it. And that's always part of the process, figuring out which one's going to work for A, your subject, and B, the end goal of what you're trying to create. And I think this is just the detailed, highly detailed butterfly, and this is where I showed it as two different prompts, doing that same prompt I had single, but having parallel turned on. So I guess 2 times didn't really make a difference because that one is just as detailed. And this is the one that I said highly detailed butterfly, and I didn't specify a background, and this is what the neon punk gave me. I actually really like these. They feel very kind of psychedelic, but if you wanted to pull these off the background, this is probably not the right way to do it because most background generators are going to struggle with this bright right up against this line. They may do it and they may not. And let's see this one. This is the neon pumpkin where I said put it on a white background. So putting in this on a white background, I still get that quite detailed and vivid look, but now it's going to be much easier to pull off if I'm trying to get that transparent background. And this is the one with the dark and moody background. And I don't love it as much as I thought I would. There's a little too much glow for me, so I might be willing to run this a couple of more times. This one turned out good lighting-wise. This one turned out good framing-wise. So I know that it can do it, so I might be willing to do a couple of more of these just to figure out what, I want, maybe work on my prompt a little bit, A highly detailed butterfly is already in there, so dark contrast or something like that. But if you want to give MyDesigns a try, check out the link down below in my description and give it a try. You can sign up for the free account and just spend $5 on some credits to play around and let me know what you think. This is Dana with Dana Digital Tutorials. Have a great day.